I'd like to mention here that we really need to be thinking of our young people, most of whom are cycling to their workplaces, cycling to their educational institutions.
And to come back to the point of the electric charged buses, I think this is a bit futuristic to talk about now. But let us make use of what we have.
Most of the footpaths in Shillong city, I'm just talking about the heart of the Shillong city, is already been occupied by hawkers, but I should not speak because the matter is sub judice in court.
Even the JNN URM, even though we have a previous Urban Affairs Minister here, I would like to put it on record that that program was made to fail. It was designed to fail.
And no, you did not mention that earlier.
I'm having in 7 total manpower I'm having.
Good evening, viewers. Today we have a very important discussion on a topic that I think that is in our minds and in our hearts and causes a lot of stress every moment of every day that we are on the road. And this is about Shillong traffic. To discuss this very important issue, we have with us former Urban Affairs Minister, Paul Lingdo, who's currently the MDC. And I think now he's more interested in spending time writing songs. So he probably will not be out much. You probably may not be experiencing the traffic jam as much as ordinary mortals.
I do.
You do? Okay. Then we have Mr. Swapan Dasgupta. He's the OC, Sadar Traffic, and a person who actually knows where the traffic shoe pinches because he's the one who has to direct traffic in all directions to put up no entry signs, one-way signs and the works. We have with us here Kong Angela Rangat, a member of the Thma Urangli Ujuki Tur and right to information activist. And because she has children that she has to pick up from school and drop them, so she would know what exactly and where exactly it hurts. And I'm your anchor here, Patricia Mukim, editor, the Shillong Times. So in a minute, I would just like to ask each one of you, what do you think is the most critical reason for this traffic jam? Are we feeling it more now because we've had 2 years of COVID and, relatively free roads? Or has it always been like this? Let's start with Paul.
Well, I think the critical point here is that in 2004, when I was in charge of the Department of Urban Affairs, a resolution was brought to the Assembly against the proposal of the government to locate the State Assembly complex at Mawdyangdyang. And there were members of the ruling coalition itself who stood up in support of that resolution that the assembly complex should be relocated at the present site, meaning at Kandailat. The plan of the government was to go beyond old Shillong, to go into new Shillong and create a model like what Delhi has, old Delhi and new Delhi. So 2004, and the same decision was then taken in 2014 to relocate the assembly at Mawdyangdyang. The critical point here is that we lost a decade in that decision-making process. If you remember, the old Meghalaya building was gutted by fire.
Yes,
in 2001.
Yes.
And today we're yet to have a complete assembly complex. The Manipur assembly building, was destroyed in a fire by a mob in 2003. And their assembly complex has been functioning for the past 8 years. There lies the difference.
Okay. Mr. Dasgupta?
Present traffic congestion in Shillong city. After the modern event, we are facing the same problem, and day by day it is increasing. First problem is we have seen the most of the footpaths in Shillong city, I'm just talking about the heart of the Shillong city, is already been occupied by hawkers, but I should not speak because the matter is sub judice in court. Okay. In Shillong, you won't find, most of the places, you won't find any designated parking of the government offices. All around Shillong city. Most of the educational institution, hotels, restaurants has no individual parking lot. I do not know how they manage and all. Hotel that time they open, just after few months, that particular place has becomes a dwelling house. Only 2-3 parking place has been shown only around the Khandailat area and somewhere in the Laimukra area also. But now some hotels are coming with a full basement parking lot. That's what we have seen, which we really appreciate. Then lack of pedestrian infrastructures, like even the footpath has already been covered. Footpath hasn't already been taken. So lack of pedestrian infrastructure like foot over bridge also very much required over here. Then we should not always give the blame to the government only. We being a pedestrians, we also in the fond of jaywalking. We never cross through the zebra crossing and all. Even the traffic constables, if he is ready to assist the pedestrian, please come zebra crossing. That would no, we'll go this way. It is the shortcut we'll do. Another, we are giving the rope in the barricades and all that they will jump on it, but they won't follow the zebra crossing. Then all adjacent district buses. You will find all over the district buses, they are coming with the old buses. This is the British time already, saying more than 30-40 years only. They are coming with the food grains to load it from the Polter Bazaar. The moment they are going to Upper Shillong or the Madandating area, they go very slow. So this type of buses also should always create lots of problems over the traffic jam, because if one place is in Meghalaya or Madandating, if any particular place broke down or this type of buses broke down, it is not easy to go and toward the vehicle with the recovery van also, because that space is very much not available. These are the main problems we are facing day-to-day life. And Shillong is the Scotland of the East. Lots of tourists are coming from all over the world. I don't say it is only India. It is not more confined. It is now the social media. Lots of people are tourists are coming from abroad also. So many education institutions are here. The people are coming for educations also. So many central government offices are here. Even so many army headquarters are here in and around Shillong city. And most of the do not have the proper parking places. There are some people who has got the 2-3 vehicles, but they do not have the place to park only one vehicle inside their campus. These are the common problem we are facing day-to-day life. Our constables are very less. We are having a shortage of manpower. We are having 7 traffic branches.
No, but can we stop there, because we have to have more of that conversation. Okay. Kong Angela, can you please list your grouse on traffic?
I think the traffic issue in Shillong is something that has been there for years, and there's no will apparently to solve it. It's not that it has gotten worse after the pandemic. Every year it is getting worse. And I think any place which has a traffic issue, the crux of the matter is that you have a failed public transport system. The minute you encourage private ownership of vehicles, like the SP Traffic is saying, one family owning more than one vehicle, why do they do it? Like when I had to come here, for instance, I also have a private vehicle. I had to come in my private vehicle because I'm not sure that I'll get a bus
point to
Rilbong. I'm not sure that at that particular time there'll be a bus. Whereas before, when I grew up in Lapan, we used to wait from Harisaba, and we knew the timings of the buses. We would see it at Civil and then run down to catch it, you know. So Shillong has a failed public transport system. And that is what is the crux of the matter. There doesn't seem to be a will. Even the JNN URM, even though we have a previous urban affairs minister here, I would like to put it on record that that program was made to fail. It was designed to fail, you know. And I just want to throw some statistics here. That Meghalaya, we have 366,000 vehicles, 2020 data, that is, private vehicles. Can you imagine? Whereas, let's compare ourselves.
Meaning that 1/10 of the population have a vehicle each.
Yes, the other statistic is that for every 10 persons, there's one vehicle. Whereas the All India data is that for every 20 persons, there's one vehicle. And it's also, if we compare ourselves to another hill state, Himachal has a population of 60 lakhs, and they have 3,000 buses. In Meghalaya today, we have 147 buses. So, I mean, from here itself, we'll understand what is actually congesting our roads. And it's true that, I mean, cities need to grow, need to expand, but the solution is not just in expanding roads, in creating a new township. You have to actually address what is the problem currently here now, because that same problem will follow you even to a new township.
No, but my point is, when Shillong was conceived of and the center of activities was shifted to Shillong in 1864, it started off as just a sanatorium and for the purpose of the cantonment. Those were the two basic purposes for which the present city of Shillong was created. And from those two purposes, now you have expanded into what our good friend has mentioned, Swapan, about tourist arrivals, educational institutions, military establishments, and so on and so forth. Which means that this being an unplanned town has grown by leaps and bounds, and therefore it is beyond the capacity of the present infrastructure that we have in Shillong to be able to be a success story as a capital city. And as far as public transport is concerned, let us not forget that the JNN URM buses, which were introduced when I was minister in charge, did take a big chunk of what would have otherwise landed up in more and more private taxis being operationalized. We started off that way. Subsequently, it failed for reasons that I don't think are appropriate for us to discuss at this forum, because it was a question of mismanagement at a later stage.
Yes.
Can I just add to what Paul is saying?
Yes.
When we look at the traffic situation in Shillong, now we have to also understand that, as you said, a lot of it is also being fed by district towns, having the need to come to Shillong for everything, which means that we have failed even in ensuring that we develop our district towns and our other districts, whereby people don't feel the need to all come to Shillong for whatever purpose, whether educational, marketing, or whatever. So a very interesting thing I've been trying to understand about traffic. One thing is for sure, Mondays try not to step out.
Yes.
Because I don't know why, but Mondays is crazy.
Mondays
but
are
there are
bad.
also suddenly some other days in the week. So I was trying to figure out what is it. And later we were asking around, in the different districts, and we started following the huts, the weekly huts, And we realized that when there are these Yo Maungap, Yo He Smith and all, there are fewer coming into Shillong, which means those days are better. So there are lots of things that are happening that are adding to this chaos.
So I also think that maybe our planning system needs to be more visionary, needs to be more proactive. So when you think of planning, who is actually planning for all this? Who is envisaging how Shillong is going to be? Because Shillong was designed to meet the needs of 25,000 people at that time, the year that you cited. Now we are, I don't know, what's the population of Shillong today?
It's beyond 5 lakhs.
More than that.
More than that.
We've crossed 5. We've crossed 5.
Yes, yes. Some people say it's gone up to 7 lakhs.
That is if you include
If you take Greater Shillong,
yes.
and you have to take those into consideration, because all of those also need to come into Police Bazaar for whatever reason, or go to Yodo. So I think it's also the fact that we do not have another Yodo somewhere else that we can. Thankfully, you find that Reliance and Vishal, they've come up that side towards Norman Song and Dem Sen Yong. So I think if all the other big shopkeepers also try and have in fact, Norman Song, Dam Sen Yong have become like the Texas, Texas, everything is beyond the city. Okay, so I want to ask Mr. Dasgupta, is it only in Shillong or in Meghalaya that you see a JCB moving on the road? It's not supposed to move on the road because it doesn't have a road license. Then why is it allowed to move on the road? And you know what chaos it creates. Then nowadays you have these dumpers. They take so much space on the road that we have. Our roads have not expanded. Those dumpers can create a lot of traffic jams. They do in the area of Nongra, Lapalang and all that. So how do we deal with these sort of situations?
Recently government has come with a new notification on so many things, like a number I am giving. Any goods trucks, vehicles will be loading and unloading will be from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. That has already been notified, and within a very short time we are going to introduce to them. Number 2, from 1st April, all the buses, interstate buses, interdistrict buses, all the big buses which are parking at present, there are coming night super buses coming from all the cities, from the Siliguri, Kuch Bihar, Karimganj, Nurpur, all will be shifted to ISBT. Okay. So it will be implemented within a week. From tomorrow it will be there affected, but it will take time to implement. There will be so many problems will be coming, will be facing. Even the MTC buses are also supposed to go from tomorrow from So this is number 1. Number 2, even from the Khandalat area, Laimokra area, all the even the small goods vehicles won't be allowed to unload during the daytime. That is the area. But it will be relaxed now. It will be early. Then this Polo parking lot is going to be empty when all buses will be going to Moyong. All the inter-district tourist taxis, either from the Guwahati or from the district, it will be shifted from the Molonghat, Khandalat, SBI parking lot to Polo. Okay. So automatically some place will be there and only. And very soon government is going to introduce electric buses. And we are going to we have given in the 4 groups, it has been divided by the Honorable DC, and we will be going to approach all the principal and the parents and the school children to make it mandatory for the school children and for the faculty members of the school to go to buy that. Yes, what helps, it will help of getting less vehicles on the road and also pollutions also.
But how practical is this electric vehicle scheme?
Electrical vehicles is coming. We have not seen it on the road. We just know that it is coming on the road. Since we have not seen, I should not comment on this. But I think it will be better. Government is taking very good initiative on that.
Because it needs charging, and we are told it takes a very long time to charge. So if you need 30 vehicles, then you've got to get 60. Because while the 30 are charging, you'll have to use the other 30.
But that's what now recently Tata has introduced the around about 70-80 kilometers a small vehicle is going. Okay. About the buses and all, I do not know how long it will take charge and on how many kilometers it will go.
But let me ask you one thing. Let me ask you one very critical question, which is, does the government consult the police department on what type of vehicle is suitable? Because you are on the ground, you know what's going to cause the jam. If we bring those long vehicles again, I think...
nowadays they are doing. They are calling those who are in grassroots level, like sometimes even I have attended recently, our Honorable Chief Minister also called all the in charge of the traffic to take the ground level position, to take the grassroots level problems we are facing on the day. I really appreciate it. I have also given so many notes on that.
And Angela, as a parent, what do you have to say about these school buses?
That's precisely the point, Kong, when you were asking Mr. Swapan whether consultations have been had, because unfortunately, left to government, solutions to any issue will be procurements, will be contracts, will be building this and building that. But actually, the issue is about common people, me and you, who have to use the roads to get from one point to another. Mm-hmm. And if the people who are making these policies are the ones in big Rubicons and other huge vehicles, they are not going to have the wherewithal of what actually is required. They have a fleet of vehicles to drop one child here and one child there. So they have not been the people who have pushed even for school buses. Mm-hmm. Even under the right to education law, they envisage that schools should admit children within a 5-kilometer radius, so that children are not harassed from moving from one place to another. There's, and there has to be that kind of quality education everywhere. And also then there's less movement of children, of vehicles. And also it's actually mandated that school buses have to be run by schools. All of us also use school buses when we went to school. But now more and more, they blame parents, that parents don't want to send or that. But if there is no consistency in the service, if you're not going to have buses coming on time, your child is late and gets picked up in school for being late, obviously parents will not want to send their kids by school bus. And that was the issue. I remember standing at Fire Brigade waiting for the bus to drop my daughter to Pine Mount. Many times it would be late. They would just take comfort that there's so many of them so they don't get into trouble.
But at one point of time, Shillong did have a successful school bus system.
Had a successful public transport system.
Yes. So what happened then in
and
between?
This success is that it was centralized. You have to have the state running this. There was a syndicate.
Yes.
And there were timekeepers. Somebody was there at Dhankiti. The bus has to come and show that you're
talking about the city buses, those old ones. Yes, they had the timekeeper.
The school buses also.
Yes,
I remember, schools school buses being set aside for different schools. Children attending St. Anthony's School would board a particular bus. Those attending St. Edmund's would board a totally different bus. So that system worked. And today, not only are children dropped in private cars, but most schools do not even have parking spaces, adding up to the chaos on the road.
Yes, yes.
And for which they take no responsibility. So, and to come back to the point of the electric charged buses, I think this is a bit futuristic to talk about now. But let us make use of what we have. For instance, the ISBT that we have created. There is enough space for all the tourism-related activities. Vehicles should not be allowed to cross beyond Mauyong. Let them also be parked at ISBT and then be picked up by buses or local taxis. You have a similar arrangement in Sikkim, and it's working very well.
Yes.
So why allow every car, every tourist taxi from Assam, West Bengal? Basically, these are Assam cars. Why are they given the liberty to go as far as reaching the tourist spot itself?
Yes.
Adding to the chaos, adding to the congestion all along the way.
But you see, I think I've spoken to several tourist taxi drivers and then the gentry in Assam, and they're saying, how can you have such an arrangement? What happens if we stop you somewhere and then ask you to take the Assam vehicles? Would you like to do that? I think it needs some amount of political will.
It's already happening in Sikkim. It's being operationalized. And a few other states that I'm aware of.
And I think the other thing in Sikkim is not just about tourist taxis, it's even locally. They have adopted the London system of zoning, no?
Zoning.
So your central zone will be very expensive if you want to take a vehicle right there. So Police Bazaar, there can be shuttles from one area into Police Bazaar. All of us don't need to take our vehicles into Police Bazaar. We have to make more walkways. Shillong is actually eminently walkable. It's just a few kilometers here and there. So we have to make
pedestrian zones.
Those places
we
more
need pedestrian zones.
Pleasant. And because you brought up the hawker issue, I mean, we have to put it on record that the hawkers also are in court today because they're demanding for a law to regulate and protect hawking. So that there will be hawking zones, there will be licenses, and there'll be a systematized way of doing it. But even that, since 2016 till now, we have met, I think, 3 urban affairs ministers. There's no will to do that. And instead, like they're pitting citizens against each other by saying that hawkers are the cause of congestion. It's not. I mean, if you look at the kind of parking, anywhere where there is free space, there's just these two-wheelers everywhere, or even four-wheelers. Then if you look at the parking lots, the problem is laws are broken, even the Muda parking lot.
I can only say that hawkers actually restrict pedestrians from really, if you're saying that Shillong is eminently walkable, then it should have free walkways.
Should have
no?
wider footpaths also. Our footpaths, you know, two people also can't walk.
Too narrow, yes.
It's, you know, and they keep raising them.
Especially
people
in
fall
around
off
Malki,
and it's very
Dhankiti.
dangerous. So there's so many of these. That's why, like, traffic in itself cannot be looked at as in isolation also. It's overall city planning.
Yes.
And then city planning, again, has to do with the attitude that we have towards our city, isn't it? Whether the planning is top-down or whether it's really about ensuring that it's a livable city for all. It cannot be a city just for the rich.
Well, you know, the other aspect of looking at it is, you know, when you talk about district headquarters having their own markets, their own bazaars, the unique thing about Shillong is that at least two bazaars, the biggest in the northeast, the biggest traditional market is Yodo. And it existed, you know, since before Shillong grew into a township itself. You look at Yo Maulong, it's an ancient market. And then there is also the problem of coordination because these traditional markets come under the administrative jurisdiction of the district councils, the same and the district councils.
Yes.
Whereas modern, like the Muda complex at Nongpo belongs to a different entity, the Muda. So these are all administrative issues that need, you know, that kind of, where a point of convergence has to emerge in bringing the entire...
But isn't that the crux of the matter? I mean, the inability to bring about this convergence. How many times we've spoken about, you know, Yodo also getting a facelift. It hasn't got a facelift as yet.
So many of these issues are interconnected.
They are.
For instance, the Muda bylaws. If people are violating and not having parking lots, the big shopping malls, when they're supposed to, they love their ground level floor shops, no? So they don't use that as parking. They pretend to have it as parking for some time. Similarly, the Muda parking lot in Kandailat, as per law, there's supposed to be an open area also for parking because of safety and pollution and all. It was like that for some time. Then it got converted into Reliance and that hotel. I mean, so who are questioning these things, you know? And the first floor of that Muda parking lot is actually a tourist parking lot now. How? Because now the other old tourist parking space has been captured, hasn't it? It's going to be extension of that
Kroboro Hotel.
You know, so...
No, but as he said, all those tourist taxis are now going to park at Polo from the first.
The notification.
From the first. Okay. And are they going to, you know, are you going to get their concurrence? Because
order has come out. From tomorrow, we'll try our best to implement all this. First, we have to take all the buses to ISBT. The moment the Polo parking lot, we'll try to locate all the tourist taxi to. We keep on. We hope
let's come to another very important topic, which is actually gripping the ordinary citizens, which is this VIP movement. What do we do about this? Is there a way out? Can't they also follow the same route that everyone is following so that they also understand where the shoe pinches?
VIP movement always is there. Shillong is a very small state. There are so many VIPs, and they also have to go very fast.
No, can we not reduce the number of those vehicles that go after them, those patrol vehicles? Yeah, the cavalcade. Imagine 8 or 9 vehicles follow the Chief Minister's vehicle. Is there a need for that? I think citizens also ought to be speaking about this more openly, because I think we are taking things for granted.
And that is there.
But no, I mean, as a police force, since you said that you had a discussion with the Chief Minister, did you bring that aspect?
No, at that moment, if he calls me back again, then definitely I'll call it to Madam Etijam ki just pointed out whatever the only we can do, cut a little bit securities and all.
The only point I have here, Kongpat, is, you know, if you have minimum movements with minimum number of cars attached to a cavalcade, it will reduce the congestion all around significantly.
Absolutely.
One. Yes. Two is, I think the movement of VIPs should only be considered, when one moves on transit.
Yes.
For example, the CM leaving the Secretariat to go to Guwahati.
Yes.
But the problem is compounded because the same CM is also being invited to every book fair, every fete, every wedding, and every funeral. How does he manage to cover all those programs? The same people who crib about high, frequent movement of VIPs are the same people who invite VIPs to every occasion. Even naming of your child, you have a ceremony and you invite all the cabinet.
So it's a culture. It's an attitude and a culture. In terms of their movement, do they really require? Even if they're going to whatever public function, I mean, we should emulate, some of these countries in the West. You have your Prime Minister cycling to assembly or whatever.
That's unlikely to happen here.
Okay, we don't. Some of those bureaucrats for time were cycling and all that. But no, the thing is...
No, and remember, the Chief Minister had said he would walk once a week.
Yes.
At one point on World Environment Day. Yeah.
No, but the VIP movement...
But the thing is this, I tell you one thing. Nowadays, I have seen the Chief Minister sometimes, he follow the bypass route, there is a Shankia road, so that he won't facilitate any problem and he won't get any problem to the other country also. Most of the time when he goes to Guwahati, to LGB or Guwahati airport, he follows the route of Shankia road bypass, so that he won't probably, and through that road he will come further.
So there's a problem all along Polo till he reaches
His residence in Polo, he comes out and he goes after crossing the Golf Ring. From the CRPF junction, after that, no problem.
I think the High Court had actually given an order about red beacons and
this. The Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, yeah. There are only some designated heads of state and some rank of ministers who can have a red beacon, who can use a red beacon and siren, but you will be shocked. The other day, there was this vehicle when middle of 2 o'clock, school rush hour, dark tinted glasses, when that also is banned. And moving so quickly and using a siren. So I took down the number and I did a check. Nowadays you can check who is vehicle registration. So it was one of the minister's wives, Now who will pull them up if not your traffic police on the road? But I don't think
it's possible.
They do.
Is it possible?
Well, I'll bring it to notice of my superior officers, my senior officers.
No, I think we should be very fair when we control traffic. Of course, in an aside we had earlier on, Mr. Dasgupta said that, the moment you pull up somebody, then there's a phone call saying, why harass so-and-so? It's our system that we have created. I think as a public also, we need to empower the police by taking their side sometimes. We hardly do that, no?
No, and I see them scuttling around when they see a red beacon, siren blaring vehicle. And they do not work with such promptness when it is an ambulance. I have seen this with my own eyes. They don't actually try and clear the traffic for an ambulance, but they try to do it. No, mostly. They're so afraid of that red beacon.
I have seen Barbandini at Paris smoothly. Whenever I will, we always give first preference to the ambulance. Even sometimes in my occasion, I have always given the VHF set. We always give, even if we stop the ministers, we give the preference to the ambulance. But sometimes ambulance also, there is no sick, no person just to the siren, the what. He is misusing the order. That also has to be agreed. We have got so many times, so many ambulance driver, he is smoking and driving and using only, he is no using. Why he is going to 108 office only? He is not going to pick up any patient.
Everybody wants to be a VIP. That is the problem.
It is fun for him to use the siren.
But also some simple rules, which you have to strictly implement. Like for instance, even if there's chock-a-block traffic, all of us citizens should know that we have to keep left to ensure that there's that emergency safety corridor in the middle. But no, you'll find that entire space filled with two-wheelers, So those things are crucial.
No, people are taking two-wheelers also to go fast. Nowadays here also Shillong Rapido has come here to drop the day. So that in order to travel in a local taxi or to engage your private cars, you go only. If you want to go fast, if you are alone, go in a Rapido. So that's the things are also coming, sir.
Where the traffic department is concerned, their greatest drawback is their manpower.
Yes.
Exactly. I have told earlier.
And
No, you did not mention that earlier.
I'm having in 7 total manpower. I'm having 422, including all. From top to bottom, including my home guard personnel.
For Shillong City.
I was
For
just
whole
going to say
Shillong
that,
City.
that a lot of the traffic personnel are actually drawn from the home guards.
Yeah.
And this we know because many of them still have not received salaries for months.
No,
and there
now
is this
recently
workers'
there
rights
was a
issue.
March, eh?
You know, they're working the hardest. They're breathing in all that,
Exactly, ma'am. But since last 9 months they are not getting. But by today or tomorrow, they are IG Home Guard has also promised almost clear. 7 months salary has already been cleared.
But are these home guards actually trained to manage traffic?
No, the moment they are coming from that, they have little bit trained in their home guard route quarters. But when they are coming to traffic, the in charge itself giving the briefing and all in all the branches, they have been trained in that way, how to stop, to whom to give fast preference and all. That's why that not that well trained like we have been trained in our police training school or colleges, but they have given little bit idea how to control the traffics. But we don't allow them to go to compounding, do issue the summons slip. His duty is to assist the traffic constable and traffic havildar.
Okay.
And actually, majority who
I
are
think,
doing are home guards.
Yes.
The most critical facet of this problem is that because of this lack of manpower, which is one of the highest in the country, you are only able to have 2 shifts of traffic cops on the road. Meaning that the last hour for traffic management in Shillong is 8 p.m.
Nowadays it's 9 p.m., sir.
9 p.m. All right.
9.
Now, you have weekends where people move around in cars after attending pubs and clubs, you know, in a certain state.
Yes.
You know, and those are people who drive around with no policing at all because you don't have arrangements for traffic policing after 9 p.m. And the clubs, most of them shut at 1 or private parties.
So then you have drunken driving.
And if you remember,
no, that we are doing in surprising checking. My night emergency, in every traffic branches, 1 night emergency officer is there, along with 2-3 constables. The moment they go in, nowadays we are having 112 facility also in the police control room. Earlier the police control room and the ER service, emergency services, 112. Anyone is calling from his challenge 112, he will ask what type of problems you are having, either it is a patient or any offense or any theft, robbery, accident, then and there it is going. And we are having a flying motorcycles that is always ready there. Within 2 to 3 minutes, if the road is very much free, of course, I have to say, the road is free, within 2 to 3 minutes, my officers and my flying constable is reaching on the spot and doing all the needfuls, all observing all the formalities. But it is not possible. I do not have so much that I'll make the night shift also. So we are keeping every traffic branches, there is a night officers and night constables. So they rush on the spot.
No, I need to ask one very important question to you.
Yes, ma'am.
See, you had made it illegal to be speaking on the mobile phone and driving. That also reduces speed and creates a lot of chaos.
Exactly.
How much of a penalty are you, I mean, are you penalizing those sort of drivers who text and drive, who speak on a mobile and drive?
Nowadays, whenever we check the deal, we have having the one e-challan machine. The moment we see the what are the offenses earlier he has done. So it comes out, the history comes his.
Okay.
So if it is first offense, definitely we are just taking the 500 rupees and that is the minimum fine. Otherwise, we are taking 2,000 rupees fine with it. And sometimes if he has done offense and he fled away from any other part of India, automatically enhanced punishment is there. Automatically, otherwise that machine won't accept.
So you're earning a lot of money from fines?
Exactly. Revenue is
and how is that money being used?
We are giving to the headquarters, the accounting is there.
Okay.
That money is automatically going to the, if they are sweeping through card. And if it is through cash, then we are depositing that money to Treasury office and it is going to the headquarter accounts.
Okay.
Traffic is not getting anything, government is getting.
No, see, when you look at Mizoram, there is this, they have been cited as a very disciplined state where nobody overtakes, you know. So can't we have that same system here?
Ma'am, if you compare Mizoram, Aizawl and Shillong is now a very big city in that moment.
Yeah.
So many tourists is not going.
No, but
so
can't
many
we,
defense headquarters
no,
are not
can't
there.
we start something new at least? After
We
this,
are trying.
conversation,
now revolution has come. Now the president, we are having a dynamic senior leaders also. Our president DGB ma'am also very dynamic leader. She is also trying to give lots of directions to our speed traffic and recent speed traffic. So we are only the manpower is the facing problem. Otherwise, almost all are actives, because my almost all constables are also highly educated. All BSc, MSc, MCom, they are there. So they all know, understand what is things. So we are having very much active. But of course, there are some black ships every day. You cannot give one example for the whole traffics.
Yes.
But we are in a motion. So I think within this year only, you will see lots of results from the traffic branches.
Paul, we are arriving, we are reaching the end of the conversation. Do you have anything to say in closing? Any solution?
For me, the solution lies in shifting major government establishments to New Shillong. There is ample space, and it is a planned city. And apart from that, as far as Hawking is concerned, the first initiative I had taken was to create that basement floor of mud-run parking and convert it into a hawker's market. But now the pressure again has increased tremendously. If you talk of the pandemic, at least one silver lining of the pandemic was the fact that it helped create these small markets, hubs everywhere, in almost every locality. And people have, in the last 2 years, have got used to those vegetable markets, in their, near their own houses.
Into
the localities.
Fish, meat,
so that has reduced hawking by a substantial percentage. But yes, it is mandatory that we should have a hawker zone. And Kong Angela has mentioned that she has met ministers in this respect since 2016. I don't know how this is found to be undoable, but it certainly will serve the purpose of reducing traffic congestion if we are able to create at least 2 more hawker zones, hawkers markets, and thereby take away the pressure from the current situation.
A very quick response.
I just want to say that we have opened a beautiful market for onion, potato, grooms. So I want that Paltan Bazar market and Molonghan market, in the PPP system also they can do it in the river area or Moyong area, where is that government can give only the land. And through PPP system they can go given that particular land or the lease 20 years or 30 years. I think the half of the problem in Molonghan and Paltan Bazar will go down.
Oh, Angela?
I think I have to stress again that when it comes to traffic, the solution, whether it was cities like Bogota or Amsterdam or even in Kerala, the solution was to better our public transport system, to disincentivize this need to have private vehicles. It has to be mandatory for schools and even government institutions to ensure buses and carpooling. And but the long-term thing is that we have to understand and decide what kind of a city we want. When you talk about New Shillong, I think that offices should move even beyond Shillong. We should develop our district towns. You know, it should not be all concentrated here. But who is this city for? If it is going to be planning and thinking from the point of view of the privileged, it is going to be that it's okay if you implement odd even, because I'll buy 2 cars to ensure that I beat that. You know, planning has to be from below, and it has to cater to the needs of the many.
Yeah, we talk about participatory planning a lot, but we don't really get down to doing it.
And it's not about a smart city. Now, they're going on and on about smart city. Smart city will be computerized, will have this and that. We couldn't even manage with our traffic lights. I mean, you know, so eventually it has to be that we have, as a society, we have to look at ourselves as a society. What kind of a society are we becoming? You know, who are we emulating? And why can't we have pride in the fact that we live in a small town? It's so beautiful, it's walkable, it has small roads. We don't need to expand and emulate others. And within these limitations, we we live and we ensure that it's a city for everyone. That is the key.
Thank you very much. It's been a very interesting discussion, and I hope that we will be able to implement at least some of these things from the point of view of the traffic police. And as you say, you have a hyperactive DGP, so I hope in her tenure at least we'll see some change. Thank you, Paul, for sparing your time, and Kong Angela for all those very important suggestions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So viewers, you've just heard from very eminent people who actually know where the shoe pinches about the traffic problems of Shillong. And from the looks of it, it appears that if we have some kind of smart planning, I'm not using the word smart city, because a smart city needs smart people to plan for it. So if we use some of the resources at hand, and if we engage in more participatory planning, maybe there are people who have ideas, who can implement those ideas, or who can give those ideas to the police, to the government, maybe we will have a better life in Shillong. And like Kong Angela and Paul said, that we need to develop areas beyond Shillong and make them as lucrative as this city is. And I'd like to mention here that we really need to be thinking of our young people, most of whom are cycling to their workplaces, cycling to their educational institutions, but for which we don't seem to have any consideration. I think it's high time we also think of these green warriors who are trying to create a better environment and create the space for them so they can cycle safely. Thank you very much.